right, so the Falcons are on the clock. Halfway through the countdown. MB, who you got? I gotta go with Dallas Turner. I am also going Dallas Turner. We'll see if the show has the predictive nature that we think it does. I'm hoping it's not Dallas Turner, to be honest. Who do you want? Who do you want? I think I want Terry and Arnold.
But here's the other part.
Cornerback, Terry and Arnold, Alabama.
When they drafted Jedrick Wills,
We shall see.
out of Alabama, right tackle his college career.
In a couple seconds.
They converted a wild.
Here we go.
Here we go.
With the 8th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Michael
Welcome back. Welcome to the Players Ball Podcast, the Falcons Draft Podcast, the best coverage of Stankonia's best teams, only teams, at least the ones we support, feel like the only teams. But we're back. The draft is over. Free agency is over. I'm joined by MB. I'm your host, Alex the Great. And I feel like we got a full out Falcons episode for you today. We won't go anywhere else, so stick with us. MB, tell the people how your week's been, man. Give us something new. Give us some good news.
It's been a good week, man. Not too much to report, to be honest. Just trying to stay in touch with what's going on in football and enjoy watching some Braves baseball, which they disappointed me so far this week. But they did get some redemption today, so all is good.
All is good. I'm feeling, we had a conversation several times, but a couple weeks ago on how I was like, I just want to get this done and move forward through the future. And I feel like we've arrived at the point that I was talking about, right? With free agency being done, the draft being done. Maybe there's a little more action to occur, but, we're on the precipice of the season almost, right? NFL at 24/7, 365 news cycle. So, but this is going to be the dry time. But we do have a lot of things to talk about that happened last week. So, where would you like to start? Number 8? No, you being Mastradamus. The other picks, future needs. We can jump in anywhere you want.
I think we gotta start with number 8. And I was talking to Sarah last night, talking about that pick, and I appreciate the Matt Stradamus references, but I kind of feel like I lucked into it a little bit. Like it was an accidental prophecy, if you will. Just because,
as does occur on the pod, right?
Touche.
Pod magic.
No, but there was a lot, I think, of smoke leading up to it that just, had me thinking and had me asking, is this a legit possibility? And, there did seem some logical reasons to do what they eventually did, right? I didn't think we'd see it. You didn't think we'd see it.
I did not.
But guess what? We're here.
The video evidence says I did not.
Yeah, I mean, I think we went as far as saying what GM would actually take the front office serious if they tried to dangle that carrot and say, oh, well, if you're not going to trade, we're going to take Michael Penix at 8. And you're going to lose out. Like, what GM would have thought they were actually going to pull the trigger?
That's cap. You're not going to draft him at 8. You're not going to do it. I don't believe you. Boom, they do it, right? And we were just watching the video that we took down at the draft at the Benz. Shout out to Atlanta Falcons for putting on a heck of an event, man. Family affair, but it was really nice. It was a nice spectacle. Pick came down, and I'm gonna ask you, and then I'll tell you what I think I heard. So when I was watching the video, what was your what did your ears tell you that the crowd was leaning towards, yay or nay on the Penix pick?
It's funny because when I try to like mental recall that night, right? I had it in my mind that like there was audible gasps that came
Yeah.
across the room, just the shock, right?
You
But
just momentarily blacked out, right? Like,
but in watching it in rewind, I mean, it sounded a decent amount of cheers, right? I didn't hear any boos, right? And that is, I guess, the most important thing. Albeit, listening to the radio, looking at what the national media has kind of said, the so-called experts, man, they are absolutely frying the Falcons in their front office. Even some of the local radio talent, very
Mhm.
against what we've done here. So
Most that I've heard. There's only one supporter that I've heard on our station of choice, 92.9 The Game. That's Carl Dukes. Everybody else has been against the pick. I won't name names of the correspondents that were at the draft, but they said, "Oh, that was total bull crap, man. I didn't want that." Um, there was something that you said while we were there. You said, I want to put it exactly how you did. Like with the penalty, you mentioned two reasons why you thought they would go that way. The potential penalty of losing picks, right? And the fact that you drop in a quarterback is what we were a quarterback away. That's how you were phrasing it. Quarterback away. We got the best quarterback available. That meant that we had the opportunity to maybe stretch our legs a little bit, do something a little out of the ordinary. And they did it.
yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of arguments kind of against that whole theory. Mostly people saying that, looking at the organizations that did it, the number one that people name is the Packers. And they say, well, what did they win after that? Nothing. Aaron Rodgers was already established in Green Bay for, a decade essentially before they did that, and they were a playoff team and this and that and all these things that the Falcons aren't. But if you listen to what, Raheem Morris said when he came, was that we were a playoff team last year if we had a competent quarterback, which
Yeah.
going out and signing Kirk Cousins, you assume you have a competent quarterback. So you believe by that addition, you are already a playoff franchise. Now, you had the decision. Do we add talent that's going to contribute now? Or do we have the luxury to plan a little bit for the future? And they chose to do the latter, right? They chose to plan for the future. And I can't really blame them.
With that pick, right? Because they drafted a lot of now players as well. But
They
with
did.
that first round pick, that is a future pick. We want to see Michael Penix. Ideally, we want to see him on the field for 2 years.
Yeah. And, people bring up his age. He's 24 instead of, I think Jordan Love was 21 when they drafted him in Green Bay. But I honestly don't think it matters. There's more layers to this than just planning for the future. You also needed an insurance policy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
we don't know who we're getting back, right? As far as Kirk Cousins is concerned.
Yeah, you don't know what you're getting back in Kirk Cousins, but he's 36 years old. It's gonna hurt a little bit more getting hit. He could go down again. And who do you have that's competent that's gonna come in and be able to replace him? Tyler Heineke? Right. I mean, we saw that last year. That's not a sustainable winning formula. So yes, Penix is in the best case scenario, your future, your succession plan, but in a worst case scenario, he's your insurance plan that's still, in your eyes, a competent number one who can lead this franchise to where we want to go. So,
Yeah.
and
They weren't alone in that assessment, right? What he accomplished over the last 2 years, I have it up. I want to read it to you. One thing that the last player who did this was Patrick Mahomes. Now, that is a lofty goal. I will say that, but birds of a feather flock together.
number of
As far
yards
as
passing.
back-to-back seasons of 4,000 yards, right? And that's not a fluke. He's had wide receivers, he has the talent around him, but I went back and watched a lot of this kid's highlights. He is a absolute baller, bro. And I'm glad we have him. I don't care what anyone else says. I appreciate the move to establish a future. When we were talking about who we were going to have at quarterback, that was one of our issues with Kirk Cousins, is that he's old and he's coming off injury. So now that we had to address that. But I also anticipate Kirk Cousins bringing us additional wins, bringing us to the playoffs, to where your earlier point, we won't have the luxury of drafting in the top 10. So then we're going to have to do, the DeJounte Murray King's ransom to get back up there to get a quarterback if we have the picks, if they're not taken from us, right? So I don't think they really had a choice. And the way that they spelled it out, I enjoyed it, right? Like, we talked about that with Desmond Ritter. Just allow a quarterback to sit back and learn. And now he's learning from a very solid quarterback. Ideally, Kirk plays. I want him to play every game these next 2 years. I think that the pieces that we already have and the pieces that we've added, stranger things have happened, man. We could make a run, right?
Yeah.
It is unlikely, but it's not impossible with the team that we have. We should clean up our division, and that means that we have a home playoff game, which we know the Atlanta Falcons fans, they'll show up for anything. It's a home playoff game.
I mean, if we win, right, the fans will be in the stadium.
They'll be there, yeah.
Atlanta,
That makes that environment a very unfriendly place for opposing teams.
Atlanta gets a bad rap for the fans, but really, I think the fans of the city are just more, I don't want to say more educated because we're not, but we're
We have a higher standard.
We have a higher standard of consumerism, right? Like, if you put a crap product out there, we're not going to buy it.
Right. Just go to the latest restaurant or the aquarium. There's plenty of other things for me to do on a Sunday than go see the Falcons get their heads whipped.
Right.
And that doesn't feel like what's going to happen this year. There's legit buzz around the Falcons, and I think it's legitimate because of Kirk Cousins. So I do want him to have success here. But I am also now excited about the future, whereas before it was a big question mark.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, no one wants Kurt to fail, because if he fails, that kind of negates the entire premise of, the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But it is nice to see that the front office is thinking a little bit more forward. It drives me crazy. We live in this society where it's like, everybody wants instant gratification. It's now. We have information at our fingertips, right? We're flooded. We're bombarded with information and stimulation all day long, whether it's, our cell phones, computers, whatever electronic device that we use. And I think it's made us impatient and more narrow, like, focused. And so, like, I understand that people wanted to get someone in the building that was going to make instant impact. But the reality is no successful organization only makes decisions that are going to impact today or the now, right? Every successful organization has to make calculated moves with some sort of forward-thinking, long-term objective at mind. And it looks like our organization is finally adapting to that philosophy, right?
Yeah, 100%. I'm down with you. To add to that, we had already addressed, like, if the thing was the quarterback, not to be a dead record, be the broken horse, be the dead horse, or be the broken record. I don't know, man. One of those old adages. We were a quarterback away. We addressed the quarterback situation, right? I know. So here's the question that I would ask: who would you have gotten at 8 and felt like you didn't reach? Right? I imagine they tried to trade back, or maybe they didn't. They just had their eyes on Michael Penix the whole time. But there wasn't a player after the draft, and seeing where all the chips fell. Right? The Terry and Arnold's, the Dallas Turners, the Jared Verses. Seeing where the chips fell, I was like, damn, nah, I definitely wouldn't have wanted to take any of those guys at 8. So if we don't take Michael Penix and we can't trade back, I don't want to reach. I don't think that, that's like it's like our presidential elections, man. Like, we have to make a choice. So we're gonna choose the best of two evils. Not to say these young fellas are evil, but I don't want to be pigeonholed into a decision like that. I would much rather use that pick to address a future need. If there's nobody there that I can get, that, all those guys were going to, there wasn't a single day one fire contributor. There were day one starters, but after hearing all the things that were said about, especially the edge players, and Latu went first, right? But after seeing everything that was said about them, none of them were polished except for Latu, and he had a huge injury asterisk on him. That's not what I wanted, and I didn't have a solution. Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris did, and I'm satisfied with what they've done.
Yeah, so there's a lot of layers to unpack there. One thing I'd like to note is that Terry and even Raheem, I think, spoke on it, probably Terry the most, but we were in a really bad quarterback situation post Matt Ryan, and they didn't want to get trapped into that scenario again, right? They wanted to make sure that they were prepared. That being said, I did hear that we were looking to move back, and we actually were looking to move back. And then when we made the pick at 8, we were looking to move up to, I think it was 11. So I do think that they had some guys in mind, Latu being one of them, who they felt pretty strongly about in terms of what they could provide this team. However, they valued Michael Penix higher, and it is their philosophy to take the best available. I think it's hard to look at the draft, and where people fell and just think that, everyone evaluated these guys and they viewed them as less. Right. Because it's a game of runs, very much like basketball, right? The Vikings, from everything that I understand, wanted Michael Penix. J.J. McCarthy was their number 2. So they had to choose their guy where they got him because there was already a run on quarterbacks, right? There's only so many. And so you see positions, and this happened in the second round.
Wide receiver. Yeah. I mean, first round still. Like wide receiver, lineman.
But I mean, like, specifically impacting the Falcons' decision-making.
Oh, yeah.
In the second round, you started to see a run on defensive linemen, so the Falcons traded to move up to ensure that they got their guy. So,
Mhm.
Even though your first defensive player didn't come off the board until the teens, doesn't necessarily mean that if you were to pick them at 8, you would have been reaching. It just means that there were runs at other positions that forced them to fall in the draft, right?
Right. No, I get that. The runs perspective. But even in the draft analysis of those picks, right, when they were talking about Dallas Turner, they did everything but call him a project, right? Jared Verse, the only one they said was NFL ready from what I remember, and then even the Predator, Jonathan Abraham, when he got on stage, he was saying that he thought that Latu was the most NFL ready. He's the only one that I heard. Everything else was like, yeah, solid player, should be a good contributor at some point. Right?
I
Maybe that's rookie year, maybe that's year 2.
I
I don't want
respect
anybody with that with I don't want anybody at 8 that, can get me some potential in year 2.
I respect
Otherwise, I'll let him sit like Michael Penix.
I respect the Predator. I think his evaluation of Latu speaks volumes.
Yeah.
But I have a hard time really buying into these so-called experts. The same experts were saying that, what was his name? Zach Rosen or what was the
Zach Rosen, Mel Kiper, those guys are not Jonathan Abraham.
No,
though,
no,
right?
no.
He's
I'm
played
talking
the position.
the player Rosen. We had him for a little while on our squad out of UCLA. They were, during his draft when Arizona picked him up and then went and drafted Kyler Murray number 1 the following year because they had already lost belief in him. He was evaluated by the so-called experts as being the most NFL ready. So, no one truly knows exactly what's going to, transpire with these guys as they get to the NFL.
There is a record of failure, though, with quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's
Quarterbacks
extreme.
who are handed the keys generally fail. Majority of the time they fail.
It's not just quarterbacks.
Well, but that's what we're talking about in terms of Michael Penix, because he won't have to go into the situation that they went into, right? He will be afforded, fingers crossed, he'll be afforded the opportunity to sit and learn and maturate into the quarterback we need him to be. Whereas Josh Rosen didn't get that.
Yeah, Josh Rosen. That's it. That's what it's.
Josh Rosen, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so you, not to circle that too heavy, but you're saying that Josh Rosen evaluated Latu, or are you saying that
No,
Josh Rosen was poorly evaluated by the draft
so-called experts, right? They were saying they were using all these same adjectives to describe Josh Rosen as you are describing Latu. And they were wrong on Josh Rosen. So they could be wrong on Latu. We'll just have to wait and see.
So every mock draft I looked at up until the day of had both Jared Verse, some of the order was reversed, but both Jared Verse and Dallas Turner going before him. Some may have had a third defensive end or defensive tackle, I can't think of his name, going before him. So that's who the experts were picking. Do you lend more credence to Jonathan Abraham's thoughts on Latu, having played defensive line, than the experts, the analysis, who most of them have not played it down?
Absolutely. I think.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Okay.
I think Chuck Smith and Jonathan Abraham, speaking about those positions, I tend to I feel more confident in their evaluations than I do these quote unquote media experts.
I feel like someone who's had it can see it.
That being said, me personally, I somewhat expressed this in a previous, episode, but looking at the programs that players come from says a lot.
Yeah.
It says a lot about the competition. You know what they were dealing with in terms of coaching and practice and the structure and just the expectations, right? Playing edge and defense at Alabama means a lot more than playing edge at UCLA. It just is what it is.
I get it.
Not that Latu
Bigger,
can't,
better, faster league.
exactly. But not saying there aren't good players. I mean, look at Micah Parsons, right? He came from the Big Ten, which historically has not been a great defensive league outside of a couple of programs. He's an absolute monster.
Who's the programs being Michigan, Ohio State?
No. They're not
No?
really historically known as defensive programs.
Ohio State is like defensive NU, right?
No.
They always have.
mean,
Yeah, dog. Yes.
they've had a couple.
a couple, like one in every draft for the last 10 years, who's supposed to be a stud, right? Drafted top 10.
And how much?
And a lot of them have worked out.
The only one that I know for sure has worked out to the hype is Joey Bosa.
Where'd the other Bosa go? Didn't he go there as well? No.
I don't know where. But who was the other one? Young. You know who I'm talking about?
Young.
Chase Young. He's been okay, right? Like, he hasn't been the dominant force that people thought he was going to be.
A lot more credence because of the historical production that Ohio State DNs have put out. And I think you would acknowledge that even the Big Ten is, superior to, what is it, the Pac-12?
Oh yeah,
Pac-10?
absolutely.
Pac-2?
Pac nothing. Now, but yeah, both Nick and Joey went to Ohio State, so they've had a couple. Like, there is no denying, but just in general, the SEC, Alabama, Georgia,
Zach Harrison, Atlanta Falcons.
who hasn't really. We'll see what he does this year, right? He was a rookie last year. He started to show some flashes, towards the end of the year. But just in general, I'm saying, look at the schools, evaluate the conference, the level of competition, and that usually will be a pretty decent indicator of if a player is ready for the NFL.
Okay. So here in Atlanta, we have a propensity for Clemson players. Where does Clemson line up in, level of competitions, especially in recent years?
Awful.
So how do you feel about Duke Ororo?
So I honestly don't watch a lot of Clemson football and don't really know much about him, but his athleticism is absolutely off the charts. So I'm hopeful, right? Grady was a great pickup out of Clemson, but Vic Beasley was a terrible pickup out of Clemson. Clellan Ferrell has been an awful player out of Clemson. I think Dexter Lawrence, he's been a pretty solid player out of Clemson. AJ Terrell, he's been,
very good. He's had some down years, but I think he's been very good.
I think AJ Terrell benefits a lot from how weak the players have been opposite field from him. Right? Like,
what?
The other
in
cornerback.
Our division?
No, the other cornerback.
Quarterbacks.
Right. So if
okay.
if I'm playing a team and one corner is pretty good and the other one is hot garbage, who am I going to attack all game long? The one that's hot garbage. So in this case, AJ Terrell, the decent corner, doesn't get targeted as much because the person on the other side of the field on his team can't cover or squat. So they attack all game long. And it
I don't think that's
inflates.
true. And I'll tell you why.
Desmond Trufant benefited from the same thing.
Desmond Trufant had a good wingman. He made a bunch of pass interference penalties, but he was solid. I liked Robert Alford a lot. He was a ball hawk through and through, right? Was he handsy? Yeah, but a lot of ball hawks are. Desmond Trufant and Robert Alford, I thought was a very good tandem. With AJ Terrell, he's had to guard. So I know he usually stick to a side, but Mike Evans will go to his side. Michael Thomas for many years went to his side. What's the cat out of Ohio State that the Saints have now? Can't think of his name, but yeah, Chris Olave frequently on his side. So he's still having to guard dogs. Like
and the guy on the other side of the field is just eating. Because yeah. Robert Alford, just to take a step back, I liked him, but he was a guaranteed PI, and teams knew it, so they would attack, and it
chance for a pick six too,
and it inflated,
and he knew it.
It inflated Desmond Trufant's stats, made him look like a better corner than he is or was. And that's what I'm saying about AJ Terrell. We can't truly evaluate him because he hasn't had a competent wingman.
Yeah, because bro was hurt last year. The player we signed was Jeff Okuda. And we still haven't really addressed that, right? We didn't draft one. We signed a guy. I pulled up the article. He hasn't played since 2001.
Chris King.
Kevin King.
Kevin King. There was a Chris that we signed too, I believe. But yeah, I mean, everything that I hear is that it's going to be Clark Phillips filling in that other corner spot.
And I like Clark, but he seems like a very, very solid nickel to me. Who was the nickel with you remember who the nickel was with Trufant and Robert Alford? He was solid too. Great tackler. Oh man, what is his name?
Willie Moe?
No, he was safety. He was a cornerback.
Was it the guy that kept getting PED suspended?
No, Jalen Hawkins. No, not
Jalen. That was not Jalen Hawkins. Jalen Landry, I think, is who you're thinking of. But
I was, as far as the PEDs, I was thinking of Isaiah Oliver.
I didn't know he got suspended for PEDs.
Brian Hill, was it Brian? No, not Brian Hill.
Jalen Collins is who I'm thinking of.
Jalen Collins. No, that's not what I was talking about. I don't think it was KZ, DeMonte KZ, because his best time with us was when he was back there delivering the wood and safety. He's still in the league.
We've had some great safeties over the years. We just
not now. Now we do have one now, but he needs some help. You want who you want to get more time, Richie Grant or Clark Phillips?
Not Richie Grant.
But no confirmation on Clark Phillips though.
It's hard to tell, man. Our defense at times played lights out last year, and then at other times was absolutely awful. I mean, we let Tennessee have an absolute career day against us through the air, and they're a running
Will
team.
Levis. Yeah. Will
So-
Levis looked like a old pro. It was really D-Hop. He just torched us.
And D Hop was a shell of himself last
Mhm.
year. So
Circling back to one more thing on Michael Penix. Well, I think it's gone. Never mind.
one of the things I think I wanted to talk about with the draft is just the overall slander of the organization, and how I find it fascinating that people will roast the organization for this pick, but you never hear anyone talk about other, draft faux pas, if you will, like, I don't know, the 49ers giving up an insane amount of draft capital to go after Trey Lance.
Mm-hmm.
And where is he? I mean, they're starting Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, right?
Very last pick.
So, and you hear about, oh, that's such a great story for Brock Purdy, but where's the criticism of the 49ers for giving up 3-4 picks for Trey Lance, who's done absolutely nothing, hasn't even seen the field?
I said it once, I say it again, man. I think a lot of times it comes off as hyperbole, bro. But the national media does not like Atlanta sports. I don't know what it is, right? Maybe it's the Braves' fault because we won so many and we could never really dethrone the evil empire that was the Yankees, right? Maybe that's why they hate us. But they hate us. They do not like the Falcons. They don't like the Braves. They don't like the Hawks. I mean, we did it to them again as far as just the national audience with, I hate to say it, the 28-3, man. So maybe they don't feel like they can trust us, but there is a genuine distaste across the country for Atlanta sports. They would not be trashing other teams. Maybe it would have been a thing, right? The day of, second day. There's still articles coming out about how bad a decision it is, like off with their heads type conversation. Like, what kind of clown show are they running down there in Atlanta?
I think
For a player that's evaluated by many pros as the best player, the best quarterback in the draft, the best player in the draft.
I think it was Carl Dukes who said that all these pundits are just in their feelings because they got it wrong, right? But it seems so silly to me that there are so many people so upset in the national media when if they're not a fan of the franchise, then it doesn't necessarily impact them, right?
Right.
They're not rooting for it. So why are you big mad about us doing what we think is best for us? We're
giving you news. We're giving you content. You don't have to trash it, especially if that's not. I don't even think they all feel that way.
It's getting clicks
because they hate Atlanta. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there have been some questionable decisions. I mentioned the 49ers. The Kansas City Chiefs, in hindsight, look like absolute geniuses, but they drafted Patrick Mahomes when they had Alex Smith and they were going to the playoffs with Alex Smith. I understand there's a big difference between 8 and then in the teens and then in the 20s. But at the same time, right? Like, where is the criticism of those decisions? We didn't start Michael Vick right away, and he went number 1 overall.
Right.
I mean, this isn't, completely. It's not a foreign concept
at all.
I just don't know.
The mention of the Falcon, or the mention of the Packers model is just they've been able to do it twice. But when that does happen, even Tom Brady Tom Brady set. He didn't get handed the keys.
No, he was
Peyton got handed
also
the keys.
he was a very late round pick.
Yeah, he was what, 6th round?
Yeah.
And now he's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all times, right? So there are some success stories, but it's to your point, man. This isn't just foreign territory. Like, no one ever drafts a quarterback to sit. It's just in the most recent years, and because of the most recent years, it would seem like it would make more sense for teams to do it, or you end up with a Zach Wilson, or not to slander this guy, but a Jags quarterback, or Trevor Lawrence. That's what I'm trying to think of. There's a lot worse people than him. He's actually serviceable, but that's how you end up like that. Just throwing a guy in because, and then you're putting all of this pressure on them.
You
Now
want to
it's your franchise now. You carry us.
you
I don't even know the practice routines that y'all run.
you want to see something that will kind of blow your mind. Look at a side-by-side comparison of statistics for Trevor Lawrence and Gardner Minshew. Gardner is the better of the two, statistically. But people don't respect him like they do Trevor Lawrence because there wasn't the same amount of hype about Gardner Minshew coming out of high school, coming out of college, that there was Trevor Lawrence. And for whatever reason, people are still blinded by that. They have a bias based off of a projected reality that isn't necessarily the real reality.
It circles back to that instant gratification, right? If you get close enough, some people can live in that area. Oh man, it's a psychological term. Cognitive dissonance. Do you know what that means?
Yeah.
That is the reality that people live in when they've made a sacrifice for that instant gratification. If it's close enough, you start to make excuses about why it's good and excuses about why someone else is not. Right? That is a biological, that's a brain chemistry thing. We got to get out of it. Like, that's not the world we live in. Nothing worth having comes easily. It damn sure don't come quickly in most cases. Can't live like that.
Are we making excuses and wanting to see a certain light in the decision to draft Michael Penix?
Are we dealing with cognitive dissonance ourselves? I don't know, man. It's hard to tell from inside, right? I'm gonna say no. I think I like the pick. I appreciate the explanation, and the preparation for the future is good. And I know you had a solid point about just because offense went. I mean, the runs were a big part of it. People saw quarterbacks flying, especially after what we did. It's oh no, JJ McCarthy, let's get him. I'm like, oh, all right, good luck. Offensive linemen, wide receivers ran. So it makes sense what you said. But the players that I would have put after the draft, right? And this is still me overvaluing likely the opinion of experts because every time there was a draft pick when we were in there, I was listening like what they were saying about them. Even your boy Caleb, right? That was crazy that he never even got the phone call. He's sitting there all mad. How you described him in the last episode as being, maybe a bit pompous. That was all over his face, and he had to wear it because there was nothing he could do. Maybe that's a humbling experience for him. But I was listening to the review of the players as they happened, and when they talked about Rome Maduzier, when they talked about Malik Neighbors, obviously Marvin Harrison Jr., I probably would have went with one of them, honestly, over Dallas Dallas Turner, Jared Verse. Maybe not Latu, but that was purely Jonathan Abraham that started to get me on that Latu bandwagon. I was like, yeah, that wouldn't be bad, man.
Yeah, I definitely feel what you're saying, and I think we easily could have gone with some of that offensive talent, and people would have been more excited than they are about Michael Penix in particular, just because offense is sexy. It's an offensive league. You get more weapons for Kirk Cousins. That whole storyline.
But they addressed that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking. That's why I'm looking to the side, folks. I do have I have dual screen. Get your life together. Cardero Hodge, Rondell Moore, Darnell Mooney, Ray McLeod. Those aren't the people that they brought in to be more explosive. Obviously, I think there's an anticipation that Kyle Pitts is a much heavier contributor in this offense than he was with our previous quarterback regimes, right? You bring back Drake London. You have Bijan Robinson. So they added 4 wide receivers and a tight end. Now, I got that from you that he's more of a blocking tight end, Charlie Warner, right? But they added all the wide receivers. So unless you're gonna draft one of them guys, which I think they saw that they weren't gonna do by the people that they signed, then so I say that they addressed that, right? What they hadn't addressed going into the draft was the trenches. Like I don't think we were going to go offensive line. We just paid a bunch of money for some offensive linemen, and we had some drafted last year. Thought they were going to go defensive line and cornerback. We have not yet picked up a cornerback. We talked about Kevin King. He hasn't played since 2021. Not quite sure who Antonio Hamilton is. All right, so I do think that may still be a hole, especially if what you're saying about AJ Terrell is true, right? Maybe he gets back to the Pro Bowl this year because he has that bad of a running mate. But they addressed the defensive line things, and I like the one thing that they were saying about all the players that they drafted were, especially the defensive linemen, they were really flexible. Like Duke Ororo, he can play across the line. They said Braylon Trice can play. He is a linebacker, but that man was a wrecking crew.
He was the most productive defensive end in all of college football last year.
Yep, 7 sacks, 11 and a half tackles for a loss. The year before that, he had 12 tackles for a loss, 9 sacks. You got to think they're bringing him in, even as a linebacker, they're bringing him in to sack the quarterback, right? That's our issue. We want sacks.
So I don't know if you caught it, but John Fricke went on a huge rant. I want to say this weekend, maybe Sunday. It could have been Monday, but he went on this big. It was probably Monday. But he went on this big thing where he was talking about how evaluating the way we drafted and the focus on the defensive line, what we are trying to do philosophy-wise is attack through the middle, right? And we can generate sacks from pressuring through the middle and forcing the quarterback outside. Something that Grady's been very effective at in his career when he's not double, triple, quadruple teamed because there was no one else to really block. But
he's the only lineman.
Yeah. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like,
I'm with you.
You get big, athletic guys. Zion Logue is a great run defender. Rook is a great run defender. They're athletic. They can push the pocket and improve the defensive line as a whole, like including the edge and their productivity through being able to wreak havoc in the middle. And then by way of just having a more effective defensive line and pass rush, you ultimately improve the production and performance of your defensive backs. We have a great safety. We have AJ Terrell, who is generally regarded as one of the top corners in the league, right? And then the question mark is who's going to play on the other side. I do hear that that's going to be Clark Phillip, and he does seem to be competent, right?
Yeah, I liked his play a lot. At a nickel, I don't know what he does on his own side, but I would be willing to give it a shot. And I'm definitely behind your theory, right? Not having signed one, or I mean, having signed two that haven't played in a long time and not drafting one. Feels like what you're saying and what you're hearing about Clark Phillips is smoking.
Yeah. So, all in all, I think it was a pretty productive draft, right? We filled a lot of holes. We did get a little bit of a future plan going and some insurance with Michael Penix. I still don't understand why people don't at least evaluate that insurance aspect of it more, than just the general hate. But anyways, my point is, I think, just if I had to give us a draft grade, I would say it's a passing grade, right? Like, I will give my final grade post 2024 season, but I would say it's a passing grade. We went out and we got, filled some needs, right?
Well, only D fails, right? So where are you going? I mean, you don't have to lock it in, but what's your letter?
I'm leaning B.
I'm leaning B. Yeah, I think the talent that we got around the defensive line was solid. There is a prediction that I don't think. Oh, there's two ways this could go with Jace McKellen from Alabama. Right, he was a cowbell for Alabama. Um, Ideally, he comes in and he fills the shoes of CP, not the Joker, right? But he's just like a more of a third down back, which to me, I don't think there's enough football to spread around with three halfbacks. And that pushes me to the second half is that I think Tyler Algier is really good. I don't think he's going to be as good as Bijan. Because of that, he will end up being a casualty. And this guy, he is the thunder to Bijan's lightning in the future. I don't know when Tyler Algier is up for a new contract. We should have control over him for, I think, another 2 years. But I want to keep him. I would really like to keep Tyler Algier and Bijan, but them drafting this cat, I mean, he ain't returning kicks, right? He's definitely not fast enough for that. But he looked like a solid runner, definitely between the tackles. He's a bruiser.
Yeah,
we'll see what
he did not have the ending to his career at Alabama that many anticipated. They had so he had a mediocre finish to his career. Honestly, I was kind of shocked that we went with a running back. I mean, it is 6th round, but I was still kind of surprised that we went that direction. And then, not to bash the guy, because I do think he's a very good talent. I'm surprised that we went with him as opposed to some other local talent that went undrafted that I think would have fit your bruiser thunder analogy that you just gave.
Smoke. Man, he averaged almost 5 yards a carry.
Yeah, go out
Career
there.
best 180 carries for 890 yards.
Go
At
look at
4.9 average with 8 rushing touchdowns.
check out Kendall Milton.
Is that also Alabama?
No, that's from the doghouse, baby.
Kendall Milton. 156 yards. Well, let me click in. That's all I can really see. Georgia could use a little work on their UI on their homepage, man. Last year, 156 rushes. Oh no, that was a game. Oops. Season stats, totals. Okay. Yeah, he wasn't as good. 121 touches, 790 yards. He did have 14 TDs, which is crazy.
A lot of his carries were short yardage, end zone, like goal line type.
He was the Thunder?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
Okay, got it.
He better fits that mold in my mind if you're looking for that thunder and lightning. He's definitely not the fastest of guys.
Yeah.
But you're not going to bring him down easy.
Yeah. A yak guy. A yak runner.
Yeah.
What do they even call yak for wide receivers? Yards after first contact? Something like that. First hit?
I thought it was yards after catch.
But if you're not catching it, right, if it's handed off to you.
You're talking about for like
yak?
yards out.
I say a wide receiver. I meant running back.
Yeah, it's yards after contact.
Yards after contact. Oh, so it's still yak.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well done, NFL.
So you just reminded me of something that I would like to kind of end on a little bit. I still want to end on the question we were discussing earlier, but you brought up, or we were talking about JJ McCarthy, right? And the lack of criticism around the league for other teams and their decision making.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the Vikings go out and they get JJ McCarthy. I told you in last podcast, he only threw more than 20 passes a game, a couple times in his entire college career.
Yep.
The Vikings have one of the best wide receiving cores in all of football with Mario Addison and Justin Jefferson, and they went out and got the guy whose quote-unquote best highlights that people post are him handing the ball off to the running back. Tell me that makes sense.
Yeah, it does not. It's like when they saw that when they saw Michael Penix go, they just panicked, like, oh my gosh, what do we do? But I will say this though, that was always something I had seen, like for 2 weeks right up for the draft, that the Vikings were high on JJ McCarthy.
I'm sure they were. I mean, they picked him. But I'm telling you, if you want to question a front office and their competency and their ability to make, decisions, look at that pick and look at all of the evidence and tell me what says that this guy is going to be the one who gets Mario Addison and
Jordan
sorry. Mario is a defensive end. Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson the ball 20, 30 times a game because he's done nothing in his career to show you that that's in his, skill set.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no.
So we can wrap that up, and I wanted to pose this question, staying on draft, right? What is the biggest draft bust in Falcons history?
Falcons history is tough, right?
Let's keep it to the 2000s.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think there's only one that was just a bona fide bust um, out of UCLA, Mr. Tack McKinley. And that just did not pan out at all. My man was drafted at 26, so it was late first round. Because of that, I'm almost willing to call him like more of it didn't pan out, you know?
I think I have to go with someone who's local to me.
Mm.
Someone whose autograph was on the hat I was
Oh,
wearing at the
yeah.
draft. But that's Vic Beasley. He was
Mm.
drafted number 8 overall, and he had a solid season, Super Bowl season. But beyond that, he was a no-show. And to the point where we let him go, and he didn't pan out where he went. He floated around the league, and now all I hear about him is he's buying up tons of property locally.
back in the area, huh?
Yeah, he made a ton of money. So
Yeah, that Super Bowl season, his second season, yeah, 15 and a half sacks.
it's actually kind of astounding.
Yeah, why was that? Grady, who else was on that line? Terry
and
Poe?
Don
No.
Terry was the next year. It was Dwight Freeney was the other end.
In 2016?
Yeah. Man, just
Are you
looking.
sure?
Yeah,
That
100%.
linebacking core was really good. Devondre Campbell, Debo.
But that team was not known for our defense.
Except for pick sixes by your boy Robert Alford.
Yeah. We were
Rashard Hanneman. Yeah, it was Dwight Freeney. What did he do that year? Had 3 sacks.
and then
So
he
he was getting
retired.
all the attention. He is the same scenario that you pitched for
Grady.
Big Beasley was. No, Big Beasley is the same scenario you pitched for AJ Terrell.
Oh yeah.
He got a lot of they double teamed Dwight Freeney, obviously. So that just left him open to go ahead and get nasty, get dirty. That
Yeah.
was a real young team though. That defense was young, man. They were good. Deion Jones, Keanu Neal, Ricardo Allen, Robert Alford, Brian Poole. That's who I was thinking of. Brian Poole was a great nickel. Vic Beasley, Devondre Campbell, Grady Jarrett, Jalen Collins, but Desmond Trufant. I mean, that's a lot of starters right there.
This is kind of a wild statistic. Since 2020, we've drafted at 8. 1, 2, 3,
8 times. It's got to be 8 times.
4.
Oh, you said 2020? Since when?
5, 6. 6 times since 2000. We've drafted number 8.
8. So always, just outside the playoffs. Couple games we've been in there. Well, we better be there this year. Or that cognitive dissonance may have been at play. And it'll be
11,
exposed.
11 times we have drafted in the top 10.
That's not good. Since 2000? Wow.
Yep.
It makes sense because we had that very long run of not having back-to-back winning seasons.
Yeah, I would say in general, just talking about busts,
Hey, Devontae
we
Freeman has my same birthday.
we have
Yeah.
not historically drafted well.
I don't think that's true.
We have not drafted well historically. Going back to like say 2020, right? The only person that's still on the squad is AJ Terrell. Looking at 2021, you got a couple.
So if you go to like all these guys are still active though. They're not with us.
There's no one left from the 2018 draft.
Yeah.
So I'm just
Calvin
saying,
Ridley. You mean in the league or with us?
with us, to
But
me,
all of those were dogs. Like Foyer Luakan, he left in free agency because he's a beast. Russell Gage still has a job. He played with Tom Brady. He won a Super Bowl. No, I think he got there that next year.
I don't know. Part of me evaluates how well we drafted by retention as well.
It's hard
Right.
to retain if they have a good amount of success. Like go down to 16, right? Keanu O'Neal, Deion Jones, who injuries stopped him. Austin Hooper, we didn't want to pay him. Devondre Campbell, didn't want to pay him. Both of those guys, all four of those guys are very good players. And to get all four of them in a single draft, I think that's a testament to us drafting well. If you go up a year, Duke Riley, he's still playing, or he was with the Dolphins last time I saw him. I don't know Sean Harlow. DeMonte KZ still has a job and played very well for us. You keep going up. I don't know if Isaiah Oliver's in the league. Maybe 2018 is just not. 2018 was backloaded. Russell Gage for Luakan. To pick them up in the 6th round is crazy because they're both very good. Chris Lindstrom and Caleb McGarry, we both gave them big money. Did it take a little longer than we would have wanted? Sure. I wish they would have blocked like they do, well, maybe not last year, but the year before. Wish they would have blocked like that for Matt Ryan, right? Even John Kaminsky, he's still in the league. He had a good run with Detroit last year. Then you got AJ Terrell still with us. So as far as remaining with us, you're right in that front. But I won't say that we've been terrible at drafting because a lot of these guys are still playing and playing well. You get past 2020 and these just feel like too recent. Like a lot of these players are still with us.
Yeah, I think it's just a difference of measuring stick, right? You evaluate based off of who's still in the league contributing, and to me, I look at it as like who's still contributing to our team, and in that respect, we haven't managed to retain and get guys that make long-term impact for our franchise, right?
So I don't think that's a draft issue though, right? That also falls on, that's a responsibility of general manager, but I don't think it's drafting. If the talent is there and they're still around and producing and contributing to a team, even if it's not our team, the draft selection, I won't call bad.
I can get down with that. Okay. So just to wrap it up, what's your way too early win-loss prediction for this year?
We play some good teams. We play the Chiefs. I don't think the Raiders will be much, but considering our division, I'm thinking 12 wins.
You're a little higher than what I've got. I'm thinking 10 wins. 10 wins in an NFC South division title.
Yeah.
So I think that's all it will take.
Yeah. Nah, 10 should get it. Just look one more time because I think we should be able to outdo 10. Right? We split with the Saints, so that's one. Should be Carolina both. If we split with the Bucks, that's 4. Oh, did they release it? Oh no, not yet.
When the games are?
Yeah, when the games are. They had the opponents, but I don't see that.
We
Future
got
opponents. Here
Dallas.
Tough.
New York Giants.
Let's do it real quick. So let's count them up. So
All right, I'm going to go with the home games first, all right?
Okay.
Carolina Panthers.
Win.
You're taking that as dub. Saints.
Win.
Bucks.
Win.
Cowboys.
At home, win.
Giants.
Win.
Chiefs.
Loss.
Chargers.
Loss.
Seahawks.
Win.
Steelers.
They just have success here. I'm gonna count that as a loss.
All right, away teams or away games. Panthers.
Win.
Broncos.
Win.
Raiders.
Win.
Saints.
Loss.
Eagles.
Loss.
Bucks.
Loss. Uh-oh.
Commanders.
Win.
Vikings.
Win. So 11.
I'll stick with 10.
Which game do you think is a push?
I think any of those.
Seattle's gonna be tough, but they'd be a lot tougher at their house than it would be here.
So you only gave us a loss on the road to New Orleans, and I could see us dropping a game against either the Panthers or the Bucks away. So, but anyways, we've kind of surpassed our hour mark. So with that, I appreciate all you guys staying and listening. Put down in the comments who you think the biggest Falcons draft bust is since 2000. And give us your prediction on Falcons wins for next year.
Closest prediction gets $100.
$100?
I'll stand on it.
Mark is paying out that big money. Nah.
Yeah, man. Please. Bitcoin, Taylor Swift, Drake, Kendrick Lamar. Like, subscribe.
Got to get that algorithm.
They need to hear it.
Yeah. All right. Like, subscribe, share. Put us out there on your platforms. Let's get this membership or subscriptions up to at least 25, guys. We've been sitting at 20. We've been sitting at 20 for like 3 weeks now. I believe in you, and I appreciate you believing in us. Have a good night.
And with that, we're out.
Peace.